What is going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to the next episode of the Three Peaks Fitness Podcast. I'm Coach Mark.
I'm Coach Lynette.
Today we've got a good one. We're talking about how to eat less and enjoy food more.
Yes.
And this is Lynette's area of expertise. Well, she has a lot of areas of expertise, but this one is one that she's been doing a lot of research on and knows a lot about and has helped a lot of clients with.
Yes, it's also something I have struggled with a lot, so which makes me more of an expert.
Yeah.
Because it's the weak area that I've been making stronger. So I understand the struggle.
Yeah. Well, this is a really good one because I feel like a lot of times when a lot of us know we should be eating less, right? A lot of us know we overeat. And we kind of simplify it. When we're trying to solve that problem, we simplify it into, I'm just going to put less on my plate, or I'm just going to eat, I'm just going to eat less, like magically somehow.
Yeah.
Instead of really looking around at different strategies that you can incorporate to make that more realistic, more sustainable, and easier for you in the long term.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that use measuring, and I'm not against it. I use it sometimes to help me, check what I'm eating. But the techniques I have today are more fun than restricting yourself.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you don't have to monitor with, hand measurements or measuring cups or whatever, but the stuff I have for you today is going to be very enjoyable.
Yeah. Add the tools to the toolbox. They're all tools. Everything is a tool.
This is the spoonful of sugar that helps the medicine go down. Yeah. So mindful eating is a word we hear a lot out on the internet today, and it's the simplest way to define it is mindful eating is learning to enjoy your food. And sometimes people will call it like a meditation practice, but that might drive some people crazy to think about, well, I can't meditate while I'm eating my food. So don't worry about that. The tips I have today are not going to be painful at all. So I'm going to start with a study that was done by Oxford University in 2015, if you want to Google this. It was by Professor Charles Spence, who is a gastrophysicist. So he wanted to see if the appearance of your food affected its taste, like how good it tasted. There's been a ton of studies on this topic of basically, do we eat with our eyes? That's what they look at. In the past, the studies were always comparing super foodie, like Michelin level foods against like the common, like fast foods or more basic foods. Yeah. And of course, people said, well, yeah, the Michelin meal was more satisfying because it was really fancy looking and I really took my time to enjoy it. This guy took basic food that we would eat in our homes, and he just arranged them in different ways and saw and rated how people's level of enjoyment according to what the food looked like. So he would take something like a basic side salad with iceberg lettuce, tomatoes, cucumbers, and maybe some chicken or something in there, just to throw it in there. But he would arrange them differently and then rate their satisfaction. And so when he took the cucumbers and sliced them really thinly and then arranged them on top of the salad instead of just throwing it in with the rest, like tossing it, the rate, they said that it tasted better. So the subject said, oh, this salad tasted better. So they didn't know what he was trying to test.
Right.
They said, oh, this salad tasted better than that salad.
Yeah.
And they were the same ingredients.
Yeah.
So the arrangement affected their perception of how good the salad tasted. So
that's crazy.
I know. And so another thing was with steak. They would take the steak and slice it, and it was a medium well steak, so it was still a little bit red in the middle. And then they fanned it out so you could see the meat in the middle. And the enjoyment level again goes way up because you can see the food and it's been arranged on the plate. Yeah. And they're like, oh, yeah, that tasted better.
Yeah.
So think about that when you're eating your food. Even if it's something that you ordered in, think about how its appearance when you eat it. Yeah. That's going to affect how much of it you eat. And here's why. So when the food looks better, your brain's going to go, oh, this is something that we want to make sure we enjoy. You're going to eat it slower. And when you eat slower, there is a scientific process that goes off in your brain, like a chain reaction of hormones in your brain that takes literally at least 15 minutes to work off, and then your brain will say, oh, we've had enough to eat. But if you're eating too fast, so if you're eating a meal that's not very satisfying, not very attractive, then you're going to be eating it faster. And especially if you're rushed and distracted, you're going to overeat, right? Every time you're going to, I do it, right? It's just too easy. Like, oh, I'm not full yet, not full yet. But when you have a meal that you're like, oh, I need to pause. Like, this is something to really enjoy. Then you're going to eat it slower and enjoy it more and end up eating less without really thinking about it.
It's funny you say that because it just popped into my head an idea that we didn't have written down, but garnishing things with parsley.
Yeah.
Actually I know has like, there was this phase that like Jackie and I went through where we were just putting parsley on like whatever we cooked, and it's, like, it doesn't really have
just
a taste.
Throw a little sprig on top.
Yeah, like it didn't really change the food at all, but it made you, now that I'm thinking about it, it made us more conscious, because I guess we felt like it was fancier. I don't know.
A little special.
Yeah, like, so it's, even though it didn't change the food, we just sprinkled parsley on top. It was like, oh yeah, like, let me take my time with this.
Yeah.
This is better. To your point of how it is displayed can change how your brain views it.
So when we think of arranging food on a plate or displaying food, like, it can get really, really fancy. Like, you see these cooking shows or these highly skilled chefs, like, creating pieces of art out of this food. So if you feel intimidated by that, you don't have to be like that. It could be anything as simple as throw a sprig of parsley on top. Or maybe it's just the way you cut your sandwich. Instead of cutting it right down, in two rectangles, like, cut it on an angle. And then part it open, and then put your vegetables up in between the sandwich, and just kind of make it look like something. So it doesn't take a ton of time. It can be really simple, and it may seem really silly, like, this doesn't really matter. It does. Your brain cares about that. It wants food to look good. Yeah. So
Well, and it's something, we live in a society that's so go.
Yeah.
That we forget that food is valuable, and it is something it is a thing, right? It's not just something we need to survive. It's really important. And if you treat it that way, then, you're going to eat less. You're going to value it more. You're going to see it for what it is. Yeah.
I read on another website, the lady, she brought up a good point. Even when you're drinking tea or coffee or whatever your drink is, the container does matter. So when you hit Starbucks, you get that disposable container, that satisfaction, that enjoyment level is lower than if you had it in a really nice mug.
Yeah.
With something,
That's
on
crazy.
A plate. Yeah, it affects it. It affects it.
Wow.
So you're going to be drinking more of it.
Right.
Because the satisfaction level is lower.
Yeah.
So you're trying to hit that spot.
Yeah.
And your brain's like, that didn't hit the spot. So you're going to eat more. That didn't hit the spot. Now put it in a nice container, sit and pay attention to it. Then it will hit the spot.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, it really does help. Okay, so here's my 5 tips.
All right.
We've already shared some tips, but here's the 5 that I planned before the podcast. All right. Number 1, I learned this in France. Okay, so I lived in France for a month, and I lived with a French family. So I got a front row seat to mindful eating before the term even existed. Okay, so if you've ever studied mindful eating, someone always brings up how great the French people are at mindful eating. They have it all figured out. So, but they do not eat 3 mindful meals a day. Even they have simple meals that only take 5 minutes. Okay, so breakfast was not a big deal. They would give me a croissant and some hot cocoa. That was breakfast. And I think they weren't even there. It was just on the table. I ate that and then went off to school. So, and then at school, it was really interesting. So we had school lunch that the school cooked for us. However, we would sit at our tables, and the lunch ladies would bring the meals out family style. And they'd set them in the middle of the table, and you would serve your own meal on your plate. And then even the pitchers of water you were pouring for each other on the table, and then you would sit and eat like this. So it was a family style meal. That was very unusual to me. But I noticed, the enjoyment level went up. Because of the way it was presented.
Right.
It wasn't the highest quality food ever. It wasn't gourmet at all. It was very ordinary, but it was an experience.
Yeah.
So, it was good. Then the most mindful meal of the day was the evening meal, dinner. It was later in the evening, and it honestly took 2 to 3 hours a night. It drove me crazy at the time.
Yeah, that's tough.
This is an American with ADHD, so it kind of drove me nuts, but I learned a lot. right? So they don't eat any more than we do, and not because they're restricting or anything, but they just don't put it all on the table at the same time. So the mother would bring out like the salad or whatever, and we'd sit and eat that and chat and chat and chat. And then she'd bring out the next thing, the bread and cheese or whatever, and we'd sit and eat that for a while and chat. Then she'd bring out something like lasagna. So it was the same food that we do, but it was just brought out in stages.
Yeah.
And so it just took longer because it wasn't all there sitting on your plate all at the same time.
Right.
It forced you. So I'm not suggesting anyone do 2-3 hour dinners at night. That's not practical.
Yeah.
But there is something to be learned from this, right? To take our time and make dinner an event. Now, I know that you're probably running kids to soccer and things are going crazy, so here's some easy ways to make that happen. Okay? So first of all, no matter what you're eating or how rushed it is, even if you had to do like a slow cooker meal and you're going to be home for like 10, 15 minutes between stuff, use your nice dishes. All right? So I know some people have a nice set of dishes they use on holidays and like everyday dishes. If you're one of those people, just go ahead and pull the nice dishes out and use them. That is really going to increase your enjoyment. I know we talk about plate size. So if you have bigger plates, think about using those as platters rather than dinner plates, and think about using the smaller plates as like here, this is my smaller plates. Anyway, I'm not as worried about the size of the dishes if you are having a mindful meal. It's really not that.
These are just for if you're not watching and you're only listening. These are probably how big? Do you know how big
size
these
of your
are?
hand?
Diameter?
I think they're 6-inch.
Yeah, they're what we would. These are like the small plates that just kind of sit up in your cabinet next to the quote unquote normal size plates.
These are not dinner plates. These are the smaller saucer plates.
But probably what we should be using.
Yeah, that's not quite big enough for me. I'd probably need, especially if I'm eating vegetables, I would definitely need a bigger plate than that. But just think about that. If you've got the extra large plates, think about using those as platters. So, but yeah, you want to use nice dishes. Here's another really fun trick that I use with my girls. I didn't even realize at the time what I was doing. But when they ate ice cream, we served it up in this really fun little ice cream parlor container. And it's got these really fun fluted edges, and it's on a little pedestal. And the girls just loved it. So we'd put the scoop of ice cream in there and then throw on some cake sprinkles on the top. And if we had chocolate syrup or something, we'd drizzle a little bit of that on top, kind of make it kind of fun. And then they'd sit there and they just really enjoy it. Like, I'm eating this really cool little ice cream sundae. It didn't take that much effort. And the fact that it's not a bowl, like a big Jethro size bowl, they're eating less and enjoying it more. So that's a really good example of having a dish be a smaller size, but more enjoyable and prettier. And you're eating with your eyes again. Yeah. So it's really fun. Eating with your eyes. Kids eat with their eyes for sure. If you have children, you know they eat with their eyes. So this principle really helps with them. Okay, so the third tip is your table setting. So we've got this table setting. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see that we've set up this little tablecloth with a flower arrangement in the middle, and then 2 candlesticks and the plates. So this is really a really easy way to create your dinner time as an experience. So even if you don't have that much time, you can make the most of it by just throwing a tablecloth on your table and then putting on a couple of candlesticks on the table. I know most people only think of candles for a romantic dinner, like, put the kids to bed and have a romantic dinner. But bust them out for the kids, right? Bust them out for everybody, because let me tell you, it is magic. So you dim the lights, you light the candles, and you only have 20 minutes for dinner, but what a memory, right? It's like, hey, before we go to soccer practice, we're going to have a candlelight dinner. And it's like, oh, they're not complaining about the broccoli on the plate, because like, man, I'm eating by candlelight. My girls loved it. We didn't do it every night, but when we did do it, like sometimes I just bust it out and do it, and they just thought that was super cool. And something about that candlelight's very relaxing, and it's really fun. So, and then the flower arrangement is not fresh flowers. If you're that good and you can have fresh flowers, congratulations. I use the silk ones, so I can just bust it out whenever I think about it. So, all right. So you want your meals to be at least 15 minutes long, or more. That's how long it takes for your stomach and your brain to talk to each other and say, oh, we're full, we're satisfied. But that is tough to do 3 times a day. Most people can't.
Yeah.
Even the French people don't do it 3 times a day. So we have permission to not have mindful meals 3 times a day. But see if you can find one meal a day where it's a mindful one, where you're paying attention, and if you can take 15 minutes or more, great. I know it can get crazy sometimes, but either make it mindful or make it 15 minutes long, or both. That's the bonus, if you can get it to be mindful and 15 minutes long.
Yeah.
So, but the tablecloth and the place setting makes that just much less effort. It's much easier to have a meal last longer when you're sitting there enjoying it.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
And so the food will taste better if it's arranged on your plates. Just take a little time to arrange the food, make it look nice. It doesn't have to, again, keep it simple. It doesn't have to be Michelin meals. And light up some candles and really make it an experience for you. Even if you live by yourself, you are worth the effort. You are worth it if you live by yourself. Okay, so that's my 5 quick tips. We want to be less rushed, taste the food, and enjoy how it looks.
Yeah, it seems like the overall theme is the more of an experience that you can make the meal, the less likely you are to overeat.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I've experienced that, both ways, right? I've learned the hard way, and definitely you feel more satisfied. It's almost like we're wired to want to enjoy our meals. And I wondered, it's like, why are we biologically set up to only get full after 15 plus minutes? Actually, I've timed it. I take 17 minutes. So I take longer than most people. Some people are 14 minutes. I mean, if you really want to get nerdy, you can time your meals and figure out what your exact time is. But general rule is 15 to 20 minutes. But I was, musing over this, like, why are we built that way to need 15 minutes in order to feel fully satisfied? And I was like, I think it's our way of making dinner an experience. If we got full after 5 minutes, we wouldn't get this experience of eating with other people and connecting with them.
Yeah.
So I think it's our biology connecting with our psychology.
Which is how it was for most of humanity up until recently, really.
Yeah.
So before distractions, before kids had to get to soccer practice, this, that, and meals were you sat around, you socialized, you enjoyed each other's company. So that makes sense. What you're saying.
It's biologically and psychologically a need, right? It's a need. So but the bonus is you won't overeat.
Yeah. Yep. Again, and attaching it to one of the common themes that you always talk about is subtraction by addition.
Yeah.
Instead of just trying to subtract things in order to reach your goals, especially as it relates to things like food, try adding something on top. That will help with the
addition.
Subtraction.
Yeah, addition before subtraction, or what I call the principle of abundance. Always give yourself what you need, and then the other things will drop off.
Yeah.
So
cool.
Awesome.
All right. Hopefully this was helpful, guys. Try to make an experience of your next meal and see what happens.
All right.
We will talk to you next time.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.